Hello? I'm ready to start. Are you? So the good news of these, there's the bad news and good news. The bad news is that it's much more dry and technical. For some of you, it may not be of particular interest. The good news is that there are pictures. Some pictures. I introduced some pictures just to break the dryness of the... So let me start from two things, the title and my own personal experience. As it was mentioned before, I professionally, I work as a librarian, but I also do research and write and publish. I published a few things in library science, but my field of research is more literature. So I have a double experience that most researchers, scholars, or librarians don't have, of having, wearing two hats, on having to look at materials from two different ways. And there are very different ways that a librarian and a scholar look at the same material. So I put a book on the table, and I invite a scholar and a librarian to assess the book, to talk about the book. They are going to talk about that book in completely different ways. The scholar will look at the title, will look at the table of contents, will look at what the book is about. The librarian will look at the book as a physical object, what to do with it. Is it cataloged, preserved, is it in poor shape, it needs to be fixed, the preservation issue. There are two different ways. One deals with content, and the other deals with the life cycle of the resource object. And so in this talk, in this presentation, I see it as almost as an exercise in awareness mostly for researchers, for those people who look at the book or any other resource material as essentially as content and intellectual content, and therefore they may neglect some aspects that are important to their own work as scholars. I'm using the word researcher, and researcher combines, for the purpose of this presentation, student, faculty member, scholars, visiting scholar, researcher. So the word, because all of you, whether you're even undergraduate students, and nowadays even high school students, to some extent do research. And whether you're aware or not, you use research materials and collect or even generate what are called research data. There's a third element that is not in the title, but is underlying it. And it's the research topic. So we have research topic, research materials, and research data. And let me explain what each one is and how they are related. The research topic is what you are going to write about, what you're going to explore as researcher, and it can be the role of women in Shakespeare plays, or it can be anything. The research materials are what you're going to need, or what you're going to use to explore that topic. So in the case of Shakespeare, you have the plays, and then you have the literature about Shakespeare or that particular aspect of Shakespeare. And you're going to collect this, look at these books, and as making notes, for example, you have bibliographic citation. Are going to use these books, are going to have these articles. And you're going to transcribe maybe passages, or more likely now, you put them in the computer. Those are your research data, at least as far as the humanities go. Or to put it in, since we are getting close to lunchtime, to put it in culinary terms, so imagine the kitchen and the dining side of a restaurant. So you're the chefs, you have the pantry, so you acquire ingredients, and then you have tools, and you have pans and pots, and those are your research data that you are put together to create a dish. And when the dish is ready and ready to be presented, meaning published, then you take it to the dining area and you serve it. And that's your publication. And the pantry, we think about the kitchen, but we always forget about the pantry, is where you keep the ingredients that you didn't use, the amount of those ingredients that you didn't use, but you may need in the future. And this is what, in the context of this presentation, we're going to call storage or data management. In the humanities, it's much more common to, when you mention the word research data, I interviewed scholars in religious studies for a report project. And when you ask the question, so at a certain point, now you talk about their work, and then you ask them, so how do you manage your research data? And they look at you and they don't know, and say research data, but it is something not scientific, no, it's what scientists produce. Well, no. Research data can be what you collect in terms of bibliographic citations. What I would like to also add is your emails. No, I received an email from a scholar somewhere that mentions a book or comments about a book, and it's lying in my inbox where there are 11,000 and I desperately need that book that was mentioned. Where is that book? No, those are research data. Your inbox, part of not all the messages, but some of the message may contain information that is important to your research that somebody sent you from somewhere else. You should look at this book. No, you should link to this database from a colleague. So your emails too. And this is nothing to do with science, humanities. So it's important to understand that humanists, scholars in the humanities, collect and generate, and therefore need to be able to understand how to manage research data. So this image is the House of Books. The House of Books is the place, the ideal place in which humanities scholars retreats almost defensively when he or she hears about defense data. No, we deal with books. We don't deal with data. Is the word data scarce? It's very technical, very technological. We deal with books, we deal with manuscripts. Of course, yes, you deal with manuscript, but you transcribe parts of these books. Where do you keep your bibliographic citations? In a Word document, we're going to be in big trouble, and so on and along. So what do we mean when we talk about research data? There are quite a number of definitions, and I collected only a few of them. As you will see, most of them confirm the opinion that research data are stuff for scientists, because most of them mentions type of data that are typically pertain to the sciences. But I will, since most of you probably are humanists, I would like you to understand that a lot of stuff that you deal with may not be computer lab experiments or data sets, or the things that are mentioned in these definitions, but they're still research data. So beginning with etymological, what is interesting is that I'm not going to read it. You can read it, and again, you'll have a copy of this presentation if you wish. The origin originally from the Sanskrit, but the closest is from the Latin for a term that actually means datum, from the verb dare. Dare is an Italian word for to give. So and that is important to stress the fact that data are not things in themselves, but are things that come from, it's the transitional aspect, come from somewhere and they are used to go somewhere else. They are not going to be your final product, but they are the bricks that help you to bring the building that will be your final product, whether it's going to be an article in a journal or a book or a database. And then there are a number of technical definitions that come from different sources. And I highlighted, the bold font is my own, I highlighted some aspects of this definition that I would like to stress. A reinterpretable representation of information in a formalized manner suitable for communication, interpretation, or processing. I'm not going to read the whole thing. In this case, research data is collected, observed, or created. I stress the point created because it's not only collected, but it's created. Let's make a distinction. I mean, bibliographic citation is collected. You can find it on a website, you copy it and paste it into a database or into your Word document, whatever. But if you, you transcribe a passage from a text that can be considered as collected. But let's say that you make a comment based on something that you read. That's created. That's your own interpretation of a passage or resource. So you constantly create data. And why this is so, well, this is a comment, it's not data. Yes, it's data, because out of that comment, you may take an idea that is going to be used in some, or a word, or a citation, or something. So that's the transitional aspect of data, to give, or to give away. Recorded factual material, I highlighted in yellow a secondary aspect of this. Even though the majority is generated in digital format, all research data is included in the definition, irrespective of the format in which it is created. And we'll see examples in the format side. This is more information in its most atomized form, the building bricks. Bricks per se is not the building, but it what helps you to, takes you to the building. Used as the basis of information, the later distinguished by recognized patterns or meaning in the data, independent of any medium. This is important because medium or format is sometimes sidetracking. It may attract attention, but you have to distinguish the intellectual content from the form in which it is provided or recorded. Data is intangible until it has been recorded in some medium. This is true of what we say, what we call intellectual content. Like, to go back to Shakespeare, no, a sonnet, you have a printed edition, but then you also have it online. Then you have a recording. So it's the same sonnet, but the container is different. Research, observation, or findings. This is not very basic information. It comes from nature. And data collection. I'm going through quickly through the different stages of what's called life cycle management. So the collection, storage and backup, preservation and reuse, and publication. Now this is gonna be, if this is your storage space, you may have a little bit of a problem in finding that particular citation that you need quickly for the article that is due tonight. But there are going to be, this is interesting because there is going to be an equivalent a few slides after. This is the room, the physical equivalent. There's going to be the digital equivalent, which is equally frightening. So there are this, as you read these definitions, you'll see that they lean very much towards the science and technology. But let's keep humanities in mind. No observational data, experimental data, simulation data. This is not something that, especially experimental and simulation, is not something that applies to a humanist. and derived or compiled data, yes. No. A bibliography is a compilation of data or any other listing. To some extent, a database is a compilation of data. And then there are types and formats. And no, we mentioned formats before. So this is a format. This is not data. This is a resource material. This is a research material. But you go to a library. This is the only instance of the work of a field biologist, for example. It's not been published. It's not being digitized. So you go to the library. They give it to you with gloves. They tell you, no, you can take picture with your phone, or you can transcribe with a pencil. This is my own experience at the Beinecke, even for recent books, 1970s. Give you a pencil, gloves. So you're going to take pictures, or you're going to transcribe. Those are your research data. The JPEGs derive from your phone that you will have to transfer to your computer and somehow store. Those are your research data. List of data formats, document, spreadsheet. So what I want you, as you read this list, which I'm not going to do for you, keep in mind that nothing on this list, and continues on the next slide, nothing is alien to humanists. To some extent, all these formats may pertain, some of them may sound more scientific and technological than others, but all of them may come to you some way, depending on the research that you're doing. And think about something that hasn't come into the picture yet in our conversation: digital humanities. Whether you are keen or whether you're skeptical or whether you hate them, which use data mining. We use a lot of techniques that are strictly coming from computer science, and that actually is the marriage of the humanists with the digital technologists and the information technologists. They generate spreadsheets and data in formats that are typically computer program, XML, for example. So then, I show you, this again is available only in this format, so they allow you to take pictures and the same thing. The list continues. Collection of digital data files, data files, and it's computer files, database contents, video, audio, model, algorithm, scripts, and so on. Third, so we have the written, the handwritten example, the visual, the photography example. You may run into a situation where your research takes you to a place where they give you, here is the box full of audio tapes, analogs. You listen to them, and that's it. What are you going to do? You're going to transcribe and listen, transcribe and listen. And this is what I was saying, both the humanity and the sciences, digital. So in the case of the three examples that we saw before, the notebook, the collection, the album of photographs, and the collection of audio tapes, if you have a research fund or if you have funding of some sort, the best practices would be to have, if you really need that materials over a long period of time, to have them converted. And in the case of the book that I just published on the correspondence of Rari, Prohl, and Williams, I went to the Beinecke, I looked at the letters. Some letters from one of the two correspondents are at Yale, the others are at the Harry Ransom Center in Texas. So in both cases, I asked them to scan them. I paid a small amount, and I received TIFFs or JPEGs. And those are my research data, because even if I had transcribed and put them in the book, I still go back to them quite often for to check things or to mine them for information. So that will lead me to the topic of storage and backup. This is another format. You may collect a data file, a file of XML. So once you collect your research data in all these different formats, let's add Word documents, sketches, and whatever you produce or you collect. So this is the equivalent of the room that we saw before. This is the digital equivalent. This is not unrealistic. Some of my colleagues ask me, I cannot find the file, and then open a computer, does your desktop looks like this, then we're going to have a little bit of a trouble finding your file. So this just to emphasize the need to come up with a strategy to organize your files and for storage and preservation, which means the possibility to access them quickly, I repeat, quickly, to use them or use them. And I would like to stress the point that this is a very subjective, personal topic, because each one organizes things differently. And this is a little bit extreme, and this may be your room, or the room the office that we saw before. That person, I doubt it, but that person may, this is a way of organizing things. And this is not madness, this is organization. That person may find the file right away. For us, it looks like a nightmare, but that person may find, for them, this is the organization that I doubt it. But again, this is to stress the fact that I organize things in one way, my wife does it in a different way. As long as we can find them quickly, it works. To a certain point. The point is if we work together on a project and she organizes the files and I have to find them. So the subjective side of things is important only if one subject is involved. So if multiple subjects, and research is, even in the humanities, research is increasingly cooperative. In library science is one of the fields in humanities where articles are often signed by 2 or more. In the hard sciences, not typically 5 or 6 or more. But even in the humanities, and probably library sciences, because as I said before, is a very cooperative profession. So if we are both working on a shared space, which is the case nowadays, there's cloud storage, I upload a document, you retrieve it, change it. So if one of the 2 or 3 or 4 components of this team is in charge of the organization of the files, and this is his or her approach, then the others may have a problem. So we can be subjective as long as we are the single subject. So the things, physically speaking, where do you organize your file? Typically your internal hard drive on one or more computers. You have a computer in your office, you have a computer at work, you have a computer in your luxury apartment on the beach. And it's important that if you upgrade one, you have to upgrade all the others, because then you find with different versions of the same document on 3 different computers. And it happened to me that I actually updated one computer with the older version, and then I got very frustrated. External hard drive, these are physical things. If I go with an X on your desktop computer, it's very expensive to retrieve data from a broken hard drive, and it's even more expensive nowadays that you have alternative way of storage like cloud storage. External hard drive, I always mention my brother was writing his dissertation, was going to dinner with his hard drive. He said, if I lose this, all my career is gone. And it seemed a bit extreme to me, but he had all his research, 10 years of research, field work. Again, if it breaks or if it stops working properly, it's a physical object. It's just like any other. It's like a cup or a bottle. If the bottle breaks, the liquid goes. More recently, cloud storage has become the way to go. And again, synchronization is extremely important. So your three computers the information is updated simultaneously because it's not sitting on your computer, it's sitting up there. And of course you have the local folder on your computer, but if synchronized and you have internet access, automatically the concerns are that your data are sitting on a server somewhere, and that server may be accessed by whoever runs the business, and your data may be used or sold or not. And we all know what Google and Amazon and all these companies do, and Facebook, with your own personal data. So it's up to you. If you're concerned, especially if you're working with very sensitive topics or politically risky topics, you may not wanna, you may not be concerned about that. There is a strong movement in older IT people in Silicon Valley that refuse to consider cloud storage, say, no, you keep your data under control, because once you put them in the cloud, you don't have control anymore. I mean, you can, but I have to tell you that is very reliable, and unless the business completely disappears, which is quite unlikely, there are always ways to retrieve your data, and it's I heard of institutions much smaller than the University of Pune, that put everything, administrative files, everything in the cloud. The Amazon cloud storage is, they pay, of course, it's one of the most used by institutions. I was really impressed when I saw everything is, all administrative files, financial files, all up in the cloud to prevent the loss of data in case of a flood or something, physical disaster. It's a preservation strategy to some extent. A combination of the above, and as I say, multiple locations require you to be alert on updates. Then there is you can, and we are moving away from the individual slowly to the institutional. But before that, now that we look at where to put it, the other important thing is how you organize. And I would stress the fact that computers are machines, and machines work in very systematic ways. And let's use their systematicity to guide us in the creation of, in the organization of our materials. So typically a computer, you know better than I do, organizes files by directories, folders, subfolders. So get used to organize stuff in that way, in a rational and consistent way. And the other important thing is the file and folder and directory naming. So which is, it's relevant because, again, it's very important that you are consistent, and the way that you name things may or may not help you to understand what's inside. So if you use, for example, a series of digits, how do you remember? Then you need to have a list that say, 05067 means, my article on this. So come up with a system that works for you, either or both as an individual and as a team. Considering also the possibility of using formats that allow for format conversion and not weird formats that cannot be transferred in any other formats, like, for example, from PDF, JPEGs, things like that. Those are fine. And three concepts to keep in mind is that storage implies, not necessarily, but it implies preservation. Once you put something in the pantry, it means that you want to find it tomorrow in the pantry. And And whether it's important to you or not, long-term preservation, consider that you may need these things in 10 years or so. But preservation, that does not necessarily mean forever. So you may, a quantity may force you to decide what you keep and what you discard. Of course, you don't know what, no, you're writing a book now, you don't know what book you're going to write in 10 years. It may be on a similar subject, maybe on a completely different subject. It's up to you. I'd be careful about throwing away stuff, but you may realize that of those 100 files that you have, maybe 30 or so are totally, can be discarded. But don't throw away everything, because you don't know what you're going to do in 10 years. You may have to return on the same topic or your own notes. Then the storage and backup can be institutional. I would like to stress the fact that the real bricks, there is a really core basic aspect of your research data that probably should stay with you. There is no point, there is no reason to use an institutional repository. But at the more advanced stage, like drafts or even articles, you may take advantage of an organizational repository system or storage system. It takes a lot of responsibility away from you, because it's financed by the institution and managed by professionals who know what they're doing. So you don't have to learn a lot of things, or you don't have to do a lot of things, perform a lot of tasks that take away time from your research. And at this point, so we are moving into an area that is way beyond what you and I do as humanists. This pertains more to scientists, but there are a number of, and this is important that you have the PowerPoint, because you can click on each one of them and explore these places. These are, most of them are open source, that are services that provide data storage and management. And institutions subscribe or license, and they customize the tool, the resource, to their own use. So Dataverse, there is the Harvard version, and it's DSpace, there is the MIT version. Some of them are more, some of them are generic, some of them are focused on specific disciplinary areas. So if you're operating in the social sciences, you may want to go with one rather than and that's what I'm saying here, maybe field subject or research specific. These four are very important, basically directory of data repositories that you can search by subject, by country. I actually was looking at certain subject, and I looked at India, and it tells you all the data repositories for that, zoology or something. So that's very interesting to, I think these are things that are beyond your own specific and limited research interest, but you never know. And I think library sciences falls into that category. If you're working on Shakespeare manuscripts, it's a different story. But if you're working in library science, and in the larger context of social sciences, it may be interesting to you. And these are the typical features that are performed by these services. They provide storage, access, and reuse. They offer, move to the publication stage. Their data may be discoverable, they may be shareable. They provide that data curation, which is about basically all the things that came before that. They provide important reporting and statistics. How many people look at your data and shared and downloaded your data. This diagram shows or attempts to show how from the individual to the community, to the scientific community, goes through the institution. I put the institution through in parentheses because a lot of these services allow you to register as an individual scholar and upload your data directly, but more likely you pass your package to a librarian, specialized either librarian or computer specialist who uploads them to save time. Sometimes it takes quite a lot. If you have a very large data set, it may take you. You don't want to spend your time doing that. But then it goes back in the other way too, from the community, reaches back to the individual, again through the institution, most likely. And this is a number of practices, processes, and policies that govern this tool and resources. Metadata is, as you all know, is very important because it allows for discovery and reuse and the more detailed, the more clean, the more precise metadata are, the easier make things discoverable. And again, there are plans and tools to manage the data management life cycle. These are a few implemented by major institutions. This happens all at the institutional level, but they provide these documents a lot of very interesting information for you in your own individual kitchen. These are at the higher level, but the practicality may be applicable to individual cases. Now, what I'm going to end with this, to bring everything back to you, but also to emphasize a very basic concept. And you are all library science people. When I have to explain what library or information science is to somebody who doesn't know, you're a librarian, what does it mean? What do you do? And they say, I arrange books on a shelf. And this is not true, of course, but I use that as an example because this image combines the essence of library science and information science, meaning I give you a pile of books and I give you a shelf and I tell you, put the books on the shelves. How do you do? You put them flat, you put them vertical, so there is physical arrangement. And what comes first, what comes after? We were talking about classification system. Now you have to come out with, is alphabetized by author, by title, by subject. So this image, it could be new books, doesn't matter. These are old books, but just because they're more aesthetically appealing. But in fact, there was another one of new books, library bound, different colors. That would have been even better because can you arrange them by color? Why not? It's a classification system. All the white books, all the red books, all the green books. No, and so it combines what library information science is the combination of theoretical and practical. What if the shelves may collapse? So that's another issue. So, and this brings back to the heart of what we were discussing about research data, is a combination of very theoretical but also very practical issues. Thank you.